One warm spring morning, sunlight gently filtered through the towering trees in the White House grounds. It was a special day. President Donald Trump had opened the White House doors to welcome outstanding students from across the United States. This wasn't just an ordinary tour. It was a rare opportunity for the younger generation to meet the nation's leader, an experience they would cherish for the rest of their lives. Among the cheerful crowd walking through the stately gates of the White House was a 10-year-old boy named Ethan. From a quiet, small town in the Midwest, Ethan was dressed in a perfectly pressed little suit that his mother had carefully ironed the night before. Holding a letter he had spent days crafting, Ethan's small hands betrayed his excitement and nervousness. This letter was no ordinary note. It was a heartfelt expression of his biggest dream, one he had nurtured since he was very young, to become the President of the United States. With every step Ethan took along the gleaming hallways of the White House, he felt himself drawing closer to what he knew would be one of the most important moments of his life. His heart raced with both excitement and anticipation. Inside the Oval Office, where the walls had borne witness to countless historic decisions, Ethan silently vowed to do everything he could to share his dream with President Trump. He believed that speaking his dream aloud, even just once, could give him the motivation to pursue it relentlessly, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The grandeur of the White House, the solemnity of the Oval Office, and the great aspirations filling Ethan's heart combined to create a moment he would never forget, not just for himself, but for everyone following the story of this young boy, representing the promise of America's future. As the group of children stepped into the Oval Office, their wide eyes reflected the mixture of awe and anticipation that filled the air. The iconic room, steeped in history, seemed to glow under the soft morning light streaming through the tall windows. The polished wooden floors gleamed beneath their careful footsteps, which were soft yet deliberate, as if they knew they were walking on hallowed ground. Their eyes darted between the famous Resolute desk, the elegant drapes framing the windows, and the portraits of presidents who had shaped the nation. Every corner of the room carried the weight of decisions that had impacted the world. Standing tall behind the Resolute desk, President Donald Trump welcomed his young guests with a warm smile and an outstretched hand. His stature commanded attention, but his demeanor was approachable, and his gaze brimmed with encouragement. As he gestured for the children to gather closer, he began to speak, his voice steady and resonant. "You kids," he said, scanning the room and meeting the eyes of each child, "are the future of America. Each of you carries incredible potential to make a difference. Today, I want to hear about your dreams and help you understand that nothing is impossible." The children listened intently, their young faces lighting up with inspiration. They hung onto every word as though each sentence carried a secret meant just for them. Among the group stood Ethan, a small, quiet boy tucked near the back of the gathering. His hands clutched a neatly folded letter, its edges slightly worn from being unfolded and refolded countless times in preparation for this moment. His heart pounded against his chest as he focused intently on the president's words. Ethan's admiration was clear in his gaze, which sparkled with a mixture of nervous energy and hope. As the president concluded his remarks, he moved into the group, stepping closer to each child, engaging them with genuine curiosity. His questions were simple yet meaningful. What are your favorite subjects in school? What do you like to do in your free time? What do you want to be when you grow up? His tone was warm and encouraging, drawing giggles, smiles, and enthusiastic answers from the children. They spoke of their dreams, becoming doctors, astronauts, teachers, and engineers, and the president listened intently, his reactions tailored to each response. Ethan, meanwhile, stood silently at the edge of the group, feeling the weight of his folded letter grow heavier with each passing moment. Doubts swirled in his mind. Would the president find his letter meaningful? What if he stumbled over his words? What if his dream sounded too big, too far-fetched? Yet, as Ethan observed the way President Trump made every child feel seen and valued, a spark of courage ignited within him. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, and raised his hand. The president noticed immediately, his sharp eye catching the small hand that rose timidly above the group. He turned his full attention to Ethan and smiled warmly. "You have something to share with us, don't you?" he said, his voice gentle yet full of genuine interest. "Don't be shy. Come on up here." The room grew quiet as the other children instinctively stepped aside, making way for Ethan. Slowly, he began his walk toward the president, each step filled with a mixture of nervousness and determination. In his small hands, he held the folded letter as though it were the most precious object in the world. Reaching the resolute desk, Ethan looked up to meet the president's kind gaze. His voice, soft but steady, broke the silence. "Mr. President," Ethan began, his words carrying a mix of nervousness and resolve. "I wrote this letter to tell you about my dream. I want to become the President of the United States, just like you." The room seemed to hold its breath. Ethan's words, though simple, carried a weight that transcended his young age. The sincerity in his voice and the bravery it took to speak those words captured the attention of everyone present. President Trump's expression softened even further as he reached out to accept the letter from Ethan's trembling hands. Unfolding it carefully, he scanned the handwritten words, his smile broadening with each line. Looking back at Ethan, the president's eyes reflected a mixture of admiration and pride. "Ethan," he said, holding the letter gently, "would you like to read this out loud for everyone? This is a very special letter." Ethan hesitated for a moment, his gaze darting nervously across the room. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, but so did the encouragement in the president's voice. Seeing Trump's reassuring nod, Ethan took the letter back into his hands. With a deep breath, he began to read, his voice shaking slightly at first, but growing stronger with each word. The earnestness of his tone filled the room, capturing the hearts of everyone listening. Ethan's small hands trembled slightly as he held the letter, but the quiet encouragement in President Trump's gaze gave him the courage to begin. He glanced briefly at the room, the other children, and the staff, all watching him with anticipation. Then, taking a deep breath, he began to read aloud, his young voice steadying as he moved through the carefully chosen words. "Dear Mr. President, my name is Ethan, and I'm 10 years old. Ever since I was little, I've dreamed of becoming the President of the United States. I want to help people who don't have a home, bring fairness to everyone, and make America a better place to live. I know that to achieve this, I need to study hard, stay determined, and never stop trying. I also know that being a leader means serving others, listening to them, and working to make their lives better. You have been an inspiration to me, Mr. President. Watching you lead our country has shown me what it means to be strong, even when things are hard. One day, I hope to stand where you are now and work to help people just like you do. Thank you for giving me hope and for showing me that no dream is too big. Sincerely, Ethan." After Ethan finished reading his heartfelt letter, a deep and reverent silence filled the Oval Office. President Donald Trump, standing tall yet approachable, held the neatly folded letter in his hands. He studied Ethan for a moment, his expression a mixture of pride and warmth. The room seemed to pause with him, as if everyone sensed the weight of the moment. He didn't speak right away. Instead, he let the silence linger, as though carefully crafting the words he was about to share. The president's face softened, and when he finally broke the silence, his voice was calm and steady, filled with a depth of understanding that only comes from personal experience. "Ethan," he began, his tone carrying both reassurance and encouragement, "when I first started my career, Not everyone believed I could achieve what I set out to do. In fact, many doubted me. There were moments I'll never forget, when it felt like everything was stacked against me. He paused briefly, scanning the room. The children, captivated by his words, leaned in slightly, their wide eyes fixed on him. Ethan stood perfectly still, his small hands clenched nervously at his sides, hanging on to every word. The challenges, Trump continued, seemed insurmountable at times. There were criticisms I never saw coming, and failures I didn't think I could recover from. But do you know what kept me going? He paused again, letting his question hang in the air. The children seemed to hold their breath, waiting for his answer. It was my faith in God, Trump said, his voice deepening with conviction. His words carried an undeniable weight, each syllable filled with the strength of belief. That faith reminded me that even when the world feels like it's against you, as long as your heart is pure and you're doing the right thing, God will always guide your path. He won't promise you an easy journey, Ethan, but he will give you the strength to keep going. The air in the Oval Office grew heavier, not with tension, but with the significance of his words. The president's voice shifted slightly, becoming more solemn, as if the lesson he was about to share was one he carried close to his heart. You must remember this, Ethan, he said, his gaze locking onto the young boy. There will always be people who doubt you. There will be those who say your dreams are too big, too far-fetched. And that's okay, because, you see, God doesn't choose easy paths for the people he believes in. He chooses the hardest ones, the ones that challenge you, test you, and shape you. Those challenges make you stronger, more resilient. They teach you to rise above and prove to yourself and the world that you can do anything. If you keep your heart pure, if you love others and dedicate yourself to serving them, there is truly nothing you cannot achieve. The room fell silent again. Not a single person moved or spoke as the president's words settled over them like a blanket of quiet inspiration. His voice, though measured and calm, resonated with a power that seemed to fill every corner of the room. It was as though he wasn't just speaking to Ethan, but to every child and adult in the room, and perhaps even beyond it. Ethan stood quietly before the man he admired, his gaze unwavering. The small boy, dwarfed by the grandeur of the Oval Office, seemed to grow taller in that moment. His presence, though physically small, carried an unspoken strength, a quiet determination that had only grown stronger with each word the president spoke. Trump's sincerity reached Ethan in a way few things had before. His chest swelled with a mix of emotions, gratitude, pride, and hope. He felt as though the president's words weren't just advice. They were a roadmap for turning his dream into reality. Taking a deep breath, Ethan finally spoke. His voice, though small, carried a newfound confidence. "Mr. President," he said, his words clear and deliberate, "I promise to do what's right, no matter how hard it gets. I want to help those who don't have a home and make the world a better place." The president's face broke into a genuine smile, one that seemed to brighten the room. He nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting a profound respect for the young boy standing before him. "You're already on the right path, Ethan," Trump said, his voice warm and encouraging. "Keep your heart just as it is now, full of compassion and determination. God has placed a big dream in you, and he will walk with you as you turn that dream into reality." The president's words hung in the air like a promise, one that seemed to transcend the moment. The children in the room, who had been watching in rapt attention, now seemed to sit a little straighter, their minds clearly turning over their own dreams and the possibilities that lay ahead. Ethan stood there, his head slightly higher now, his eyes sparkling not just with inspiration, but with the certainty that his dream mattered. The letter he had clutched so tightly before now felt like more than a piece of paper. It felt like a bridge to something greater. The room, though quiet, buzzed with a sense of purpose, as though the weight of the moment was carving its place in the hearts and minds of everyone present. President Trump paused for a moment, his thoughtful expression softening as he looked down at Ethan, the young boy, holding the carefully folded letter he had just read aloud. Appeared small against the grandeur of the Oval Office. Yet there was something about his quiet determination that seemed to fill the space. Trump, sensing the gravity of the moment, crouched slightly, meeting Ethan at eye level, a gesture that immediately made the boy feel seen, valued, and understood. The president's voice, steady yet gentle, carried a weight that silenced the room. Every word felt deliberate, as though he was crafting a message not just for Ethan, but for everyone who might hear it. "Ethan," he began, his tone calm but imbued with encouragement. "You have something that not everyone has, even many adults, a heart that wants to serve others. That, my boy, is the first and most important quality of a true leader." Trump let the words linger, pausing briefly to study Ethan's face. The boy's wide eyes reflected a mix of awe and understanding, his small hands gripping the letter tightly as though it anchored him in the moment. The president's gaze remained fixed on Ethan as he continued, his voice now carrying an almost instructive tone. "But remember," he said, leaning slightly closer, his voice lowering as if to emphasize the importance of his next words. "Being a leader doesn't mean standing at the top and giving orders. True leadership is about listening, learning from those around you, and constantly striving to improve yourself. The best leaders are those who serve others, not with arrogance or pride, but with humility and compassion." The president paused again, letting his words settle like stones dropped into a still pond. Around the room, the other children and adults seemed equally captivated by the unfolding moment. Even the sound of breathing felt muted, as if everyone was holding their breath, afraid to interrupt. "You don't have to wait until you're president to start making a difference," Trump continued, his tone shifting to one of warmth and reassurance. "You can begin right now, today, by being kind to your friends, helping those in need, and always doing what's right, no matter how small the action may seem. These small acts, Ethan, are what build the foundation of a great leader. The person who learns to serve others today will be the one ready to lead tomorrow." Trump's words were met with silence, but it wasn't the kind of silence that comes from discomfort. It was the kind that happens when every ear is tuned in, every mind fully engaged. Ethan's expression shifted slightly, his awe giving way to a deeper understanding. His small stature seemed to grow in that moment, as if the president's words had imbued him with a strength and purpose beyond his years. The president straightened, sensing that the moment needed a physical gesture to match the emotional weight of his words. Walking deliberately to the resolute desk, he opened a drawer, his movements slow and intentional. The room watched in quiet anticipation as he reached inside and withdrew a small but elegant pin. Its silver body caught the light, the iconic emblem of the White House engraved near its cap. Turning back toward Ethan, Trump held the pin out in front of him, his gesture both ceremonial and deeply personal. His voice shifted slightly, becoming more deliberate, as if he understood that this moment would leave a lasting impression. "Ethan," he said, his words deliberate and steady, "I want you to keep this pin. It's not just a gift, it's a reminder that every dream, no matter how big, can become a reality as long as you never give up. When life feels hard, when challenges seem overwhelming, I want you to look at this pin and remember this moment. Remember that you have the strength to overcome anything." Ethan hesitated for only a second before stepping forward. His small hands trembled slightly as he reached out to accept the pin. The room felt charged with emotion as the boy took it, holding it as though it were the most precious object he had ever received. Looking up at the president, Ethan's eyes shone with gratitude and an unspoken promise, a promise to honor the gesture and the responsibility that came with it. "Thank you, Mr. President," Ethan said, his voice soft but steady, carrying a sincerity that filled the room. "I promise I'll never give up on my dream, and I'll do my very best to help others." The simplicity of Ethan's words carried a weight that no one could ignore. For a brief moment, the room seemed to stand still, the silence filled with the significance of what had just transpired. Trump, his expression warm and reflective, gently placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. The gesture, though subtle, spoke volumes. It was both reassuring and encouraging, a silent message that the boy had his full support. Straightening once more, the president turned to address the room, his voice rising slightly to ensure everyone could hear. "A great leader," he said, his words carrying the energy of conviction, "isn't just someone with power or authority. A great leader is someone who uses their heart to serve and inspire the world. True leadership begins here," he added, placing a hand over his chest. "With the courage to care for others and the determination to make a difference." The room seemed to hold its collective breath, the weight of the moment palpable. For Ethan, the gesture and the president's words were more than just an honor. They were a call to action, a reminder that the path to greatness begins not with grand gestures, but with small, meaningful steps taken every day. Ethan held the pen tightly in his hands, its cool surface grounding him in the reality of the moment. It was no longer just a pen. It was a symbol of possibility, of faith in his dreams, and of the belief that even a small boy from a quiet town could one day sit at the very desk before him, ready to serve and lead with a heart full of purpose. The story of Ethan, a young boy who stood bravely in the Oval Office to share his heartfelt dream with President Donald Trump, quickly gained momentum across the nation. Within hours, photos and videos of the moment spread like wildfire on social media, appearing on timelines, in news articles, and across online forums. The sight of a small boy reading his carefully written letter, his voice trembling yet unwavering, paired with the president's sincere and compassionate response, struck a powerful chord with people from all walks of life. It wasn't just a story. It was a moment that resonated deeply, one that carried the weight of hope, belief, and possibility. For many Christian believers, this was more than a touching scene. It was a vivid example of God's providence at work. Ethan's dream, they believed, was a seed planted by God, nurtured by the boy's pure heart and unshakable courage. The meeting between Ethan and President Trump, they argued, was no mere coincidence but a divinely orchestrated event. God's hand, they said, was guiding this moment to deliver a powerful message of hope, faith, and compassion. Across the country, pastors wove Ethan's story into their Sunday sermons, describing the boy's bravery as a testament to the biblical principles of faith and perseverance. Congregations sat captivated, drawing inspiration from Ethan's courage and the president's thoughtful response. One pastor in a small southern church described Ethan's act as a modern-day parable about the power of faith and the importance of stepping forward. No matter how small or insignificant one might feel, God works through the pure-hearted, he told his congregation. And Ethan reminded us that even the smallest voice can carry the greatest dreams. For supporters of President Trump, the moment highlighted his unique ability to connect with people, not just as a political figure, but as a leader who valued the dreams and aspirations of the youngest generation. It revealed a side of him that transcended politics, a leader who saw the potential in every individual, no matter how small or young. Many admired the way he paused to acknowledge Ethan's courage, read his letter, and offer words of genuine encouragement. The image of Trump handing Ethan the White House pin became an iconic symbol, a tangible representation of hope and belief in the American dream. To many, it underscored the idea that anyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, could rise to greatness if they dared to dream and worked tirelessly toward their goals. In homes across America, Ethan's story became a topic of conversation. Families gathered around their phones and televisions to watch the video. The simple yet profound exchange between the president and the boy leaving an indelible impression. Parents shared the story with their children, using it as a teachable moment to emphasize the value of dreaming big and taking small, kind steps to make a difference in the world. Around kitchen tables, families discussed how Ethan's courage and determination could inspire others to follow their own dreams. Some parents even encouraged their children to write their own letters, inspired by Ethan's bravery in voicing his aspirations. "It doesn't matter how young you are," one mother told her daughter. "If you have a dream, it's worth sharing. You never know who might listen." On social media and community forums, the story sparked vibrant discussions. Teachers shared their reflections on how Ethan's story exemplified values like perseverance, humility, and kindness. Parents expressed gratitude for the reminder that even small moments could carry profound significance. A common theme emerged in these conversations: the importance of taking action today. "We don't have to wait for the future to make a difference." One user wrote in a popular post, "Change begins today, with the choices we make and the kindness we show." This sentiment, echoed by President Trump himself during the meeting, resonated with people of all ages. It reminded them that leadership isn't about authority or power. It's about serving others with a heart full of purpose and a willingness to make small, meaningful contributions each day. Among the many moments captured on video, one stood out: the quiet yet profound exchange between President Trump and Ethan as the president handed him the engraved White House pin. "This pin," Trump had said, "isn't just a gift. It's a reminder that every dream can come true if you work hard and never give up." The simplicity of those words struck a chord with viewers, reinforcing the idea that leadership is not about commanding but about nurturing the potential in others. Ethan's story transcended the boundaries of a single meeting, becoming a symbol of the core values that define the American spirit: faith, perseverance, and the courage to dream. It reminded people across the nation, and perhaps even the world, that sometimes a single act of encouragement can create ripples far beyond what anyone could imagine. The courage of a small boy and the recognition of his potential by a leader proved that even the smallest actions, when carried out with belief and determination, can inspire waves of change that touch countless lives. The meeting between President Donald Trump and young Ethan was more than a fleeting moment in the Oval Office. It became a story that resonated deeply across the nation. What began as a young boy's brave decision to share his dream grew into a powerful message of hope, faith, and perseverance, values that have long been the cornerstone of the American spirit. Ethan's letter, read aloud in the presence of the president, carried a simplicity that spoke volumes. It wasn't just about a dream of becoming president. It was a declaration of a child's heart, pure, unfiltered, and filled with a desire to help others. And President Trump, with his characteristic blend of confidence and sincerity, didn't just listen. He embraced the moment, understanding its weight and significance. Looking at Ethan, President Trump addressed him and, by extension, the entire generation of young dreamers across America. His voice, steady yet filled with emotion, carried words that would linger far beyond the walls of the White House. Hold on to your faith in yourself and in God. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be honest, steadfast, and never stop dreaming. Every dream, no matter how big or small, holds value. The future of America, the future of the world, rests in your hands. Those words struck a chord, not just with Ethan, but with everyone in the room. For a moment, the usual gravity of the Oval Office transformed into a space of warmth and encouragement, where the potential of the next generation felt tangible and within reach. Ethan stood quietly, clutching the engraved White House pin that the president had given him, a symbol of belief, not only in Ethan's dream, but in the dreams of every child who dared to hope for something greater. The pin, small and seemingly ordinary, carried a weight far beyond its size. It represented a promise, a challenge, and a source of inspiration. As Ethan prepared to leave, the significance of the moment wasn't lost on anyone. He wasn't just walking out of the Oval Office with a keepsake in his hand. He was carrying with him a mission, a call to action that the president had bestowed upon him. It wasn't just about becoming a leader someday. It was about being a person of integrity, compassion, and vision. Right now, Ethan's story didn't take long to spread, and it quickly became a shining example for children everywhere. Parents shared it with their kids, using it as a teaching moment to emphasize the importance of holding on to faith, dreaming big, and working hard in classrooms and living rooms. The tale of Ethan and his meeting with the president became more than just a story. It became a source of inspiration. Across the country, people reflected on the president's words. The message wasn't complicated, but it carried a timeless truth. Greatness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from persistence, kindness, and an unwavering belief in oneself. It reminded everyone that the foundations of leadership aren't built on power or authority, but on service to others and a steadfast commitment to doing what's right. Ethan's journey was just beginning, but in those brief moments at the White House, he had already taken the first steps, with the president's advice etched into his heart. He carried with him not just a dream, but a blueprint for turning it into reality. His courage to stand up, speak his truth, and embrace the support of a leader he admired was a testament to what could happen when faith meets action. The message from that meeting wasn't just for Ethan. It was for every child who has ever dared to dream and every adult who has ever needed a reminder that dreams are worth pursuing. It was a call to believe in the power of persistence, the necessity of kindness, and the unshakable strength of a heart filled with faith. It reminded America and the world that nothing is impossible for those who dare to dream and work tirelessly to make those dreams come true.